Good morning, everyone. My name's Mike Light. I'm the Department Head for Social Sciences, and I wanted to thank you for attending this second presentation of our annual Race and Ethnicity Conference. I'm not going to take much of your time this morning because the main attraction is Professor Williams, and we'll get to him in just a minute. But I did want to let you know that the keynote speaker for this year's event is Pulitzer Prize-winning author. Her name is Isabel Wilkerson. And I wanted to invite you all to attend her lecture on Thursday night in the Spectrum Theater at 7:30. If you've never seen her before or heard of her, there's only one thing you need to know about her. She's been on Oprah, right? So you know she's a rock star. Anybody who's been on Oprah is a big deal. So we're happy to have her come to Grand Rapids Community College and participate as our keynote speaker. The book that she's authored this year is called The Warmth of Other Suns, and it's about the great migration of African Americans from the South to the industrial Midwest and the North and the West Coast around the turn of the century. So it's a fascinating tale, and she's a fantastic public speaker, and there's even some food for you if you show up. So I know college students always get up for free food. So hopefully you'll attend Thursday night. The speaker today is Dr. Williams, a member of the Social Science Department and a participant in these events in the past. I know you're going to be informed. I'm really excited to hear what he has to say about poverty and academic success, so let's give Dr. Williams a hand.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here. Glad you could make it this morning. Unfortunately, sometimes the topics that are chosen are not always a lot of fun. Poverty is not something that is a fun topic to talk about, so I'll try not to belabor the point, but I'm going to also try to include you as much as possible in this whole discussion or presentation, however you want to perceive it. Today I'm going to talk about poverty and academic success because I believe that it's extremely important in terms of today's society where we're seeing the economic downturns, the difficulties, the problems, all of that, where more and more people are falling behind in terms of the economy. So let's start out with talking about the definition of poverty. Can anybody tell me what the definition is? How would you go about defining poverty? Anybody?
Lack of funds in order to survive.
Lack of funds in order to survive? Anything else? People who make $20,000 or less per year. Anybody else? And would you just limit it to enough to survive, to eat, or be able to have a couple of meals a day? How would you go about expanding this? Anybody? No? Well, let's look at some things then, and let's talk about some of the things that we need to. First of all, there is no absolute standard when it comes to poverty, okay? Around the world, what you find out is there are different standards of who actually falls into the category of poverty. But let's just look at this, for example. While there's no absolute standard, it's really those who don't have the basic necessities of life. Be sure that you notice diet, health, and shelter. Now, unfortunately, in the United States, your less than 20,000 is exactly right. However, guess what it doesn't include? Anybody know? Believe it or not, health, shelter, gas, which is about 3 something a gallon now. Okay. Anybody got any coupons? No. But the idea is still that poverty is one of those insidious kinds of things that we still have to deal with in terms of our society. First of all, it doesn't include dental care. It doesn't include emergency care in terms of emergency room. It doesn't include eyeglasses. It does not include if you need dentures, partials, etc. Are there free clinics that you can go to? Yes. But guess what they tend to do more than anything else? Anybody know? Free clinic for dental. What are they more likely to do? I'm sorry, I heard it. Pull your teeth. Just what you need, right? So no repair. They're more likely to just extract them. Okay, so now I'm down to a couple of teeth. So how do I eat a good diet? Very difficult. Okay, so poverty is much more insidious than many times people are aware. There are two types of poverty. Please keep in mind, I am a sociologist, I'm a criminologist. You might be taking notes, so I'm coming strictly from the sociological perspective. I'll talk about psychology and the other things as well, but there are two types of poverty: absolute poverty and relative poverty, okay? Absolute poverty is where you basically cannot afford anything in terms of basic subsistence. Look at the number. 3 in 10 of the world's population are in absolute poverty. Means that they cannot afford food, health care, dental care, vision care, no emergency care. Many places around the world, Myers doesn't exist. They can't buy food 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So these individuals are in serious situations. So the level of economic deprivation that exists when people do not have the means to secure the most basic necessities of life. If you're in poverty, a lot of people, homeless. Let me ask you a question. Where do you brush your teeth when you're homeless? Where do you go to? I'm sorry?
You don't.
You don't. Where do you go to the bathroom? Yes.
Public libraries.
Public libraries.
Veterans Park.
Veterans Park. Street, doorways, other places. Wherever you need to go, because it's a normal, natural function that everybody, believe it or not, has to go to the bathroom. But not all of those facilities are available to individuals that are homeless and in poverty. But please note, 3 in 10 in the world's population suffer from absolute poverty. They don't even have the basic necessities in terms of everyday life. Relative poverty, on the other hand, deals with people who, compared to other people within the society, cannot maintain the basic or average standard of living. Now, we've already talked about that poverty level. That's for a family of what? Do you recall? Do you know? The 20,000? Anybody know? Family of 4, exactly right. Which also doesn't include health care, dental care, eye care, etc. Doesn't include gasoline, doesn't include car insurance, doesn't include lots of other things as well. So we've got absolute poverty and we've got relative poverty. Now, just so I don't bore you to death, let me give you some things and then we'll move on into some other things. Look at this. The official poverty line is 14 to 15% of the population in terms of individuals that find themselves in poverty. Watch how we define it. An individual under 65, one person, $10,160 annual income. When I was a student, I was in poverty. Some of you here might be in poverty. Trying to go to school, buy books, okay? For a family of 4, $20,144 per year in terms of income. Now watch, over 16 million Americans are classified as severely poor, living equal to or below the poverty line. And here's the scary part. I'm an African American, but look at this number. 50% of the people that are in poverty are African Americans and Latinos. That's a huge number. That's a real disparity within the society in terms of finding that over 50% of those in poverty are there. Why such a large number? Anybody have any ideas? Why such a huge number? Why the disparity within our society? Anybody know? Hazard a guess?
I think it can go back to slavery.
I'm sorry?
I said I think it could go back to slavery.
Well, you could go back to that, but we've been, African Americans at least, out of slavery, at least slavery that we've known in the past, in terms of that particular form of slavery, for quite some time. So I'm not sure that that would be a good explanation for today. We might have some roots back there. Okay? Any other possibilities?
Discrimination.
I'm sorry? Discrimination. Anything else? Yes.
I was going to say, I forgot the term, but it's like institutional racism.
Institutional racism. Yeah. Okay? And we're going to get to some of these as we go through here. The other thing is, look at this. This is the counted number. Over 16 million Americans are found in this particular condition and classified as severely poor. Well, we know how the census works. Does everybody get counted in the census? No. When they come to my house, I might be thinking bill collector. Do I answer the door? If I'm here illegally, what might I be thinking? Immigration. Yeah, so really, if you want to look at it statistically, the real number is probably twice that number that are actually classified or are actually severely poor. 32 million people in the United States that are severely poor. Okay? 1 out of 5 children are in poverty. You say, wait a minute, how could children be in poverty? Anybody have an answer for that one? What do you think?
Living with the parents.
I'm sorry?
Living with the parents.
Living with their parents, who are typically also what? In poverty. So 1 out of 5 children, and women are more likely to be in poverty than men. By the way, the term for it is known as the feminization of poverty. You say, well, why? Because women are less likely to be paid equally to men. Women are more likely to be in occupations that are not going to be as high paid. Watch this one as well. A larger percentage of poverty is in the suburbs and non-metro areas. It's not the center of Grand Rapids. Where would it be located? What do you think? I'm sorry?
Wyoming.
It's not even just in Wyoming. You're going to see it in Wyoming. How about trying somewhere farther out? Rural areas, small cities, small towns. It's where it's more likely to be located. 2.8 million of these individuals are full-time workers, have a full-time job. 6.4 million have a part-time job, and yet they're still below the poverty line, which means that they typically are eligible for food stamps, other governmental programs that might be there. 16.3 million whites are poor versus 8.9 million African Americans, 9.1 million Hispanics. Non-Hispanic whites take up more of the welfare budget than any other racial group. Yeah, sometimes we think it is one group, but it's not. And as the economic downturn continues, what we're finding is more and more people are falling out of the middle class into the lower echelons in terms of income. Out of 17 high-income countries, America scores the worst on the Human Poverty Index. worse. And yet we're one of the richest countries in the world. The poverty threshold, the official poverty line in the US, is higher than international standards. Okay? Something else I want to get to. If we applied the normal part in terms of the definition of poverty line, we'd have more like 55 million versus 37 million of Americans would be in poverty. But because we manipulate the numbers, okay? By the way, how does that family of four typically live? Month to month? Week to week? When the food stamps come at the beginning of the month, you eat good. What happens after the middle of the month? Then we have to go to the staples. Also, many individuals that find themselves in this particular category also use fast food restaurants to feed their children, which is also problematic for us as a society. So there are a lot of explanations, okay? There are lots of explanations. Sociological theories, we've got them. We've got psychological theories, they're out there. Environmental, cultural deficiencies, we have lots of explanations for poverty. But what are we actually doing as it relates to poverty? When's the last time you gave food to a food pantry? Just when you go grocery shopping, picking up 5 cans to take to the food pantry. Yeah. Just that easy, just that simple. But normally, as human beings, do we tend to think about anybody else other than ourselves? No. How much work does it take to get rid of poverty? Not a lot. It just takes a concerted effort. And if we spend the time and effort to do it, we can actually do it quite well. From a sociological perspective, this just says there's a problem in terms of the structure of the society. Okay? The problem is that we have difficulties in terms of inequality within the society. And that inequality is based upon education. It can be age, it can be race, it can be gender, sexual orientation, but inequality exists. Psychological, we're arguing that there is a biological or a genetic defect that causes these individuals to be in poverty. Environmental, you're more likely to find hazardous facilities, low-income areas, compared to the rich. And then we've got cultural deficiencies, the whole belief that the poor are in some way inferior. And the reason that they're inferior is because they were born that way. Okay? And what we find out is those aren't true at all. Watch this. In terms of poverty, first of all, people that live in poor areas get less funding for education. Anybody see what the governor proposed? They might take that one out of the tape. I don't know. I don't really care. The idea is we still give less funding for education for low-income areas, where we actually need it the most. We have lower educational standards and expectations in terms of, watch, pay attention, educators, community, parents as well. Many times education is used as a babysitter. So when the kids come home, who helps with their homework? The individual that is in poverty is less likely to find a parent that is able to help them with their math homework, their reading homework, their English homework, etc. So individuals many times are out of luck. Some of you sitting here might actually be the first in your family to go to college. Why? Yeah, something to think about. There are fewer educational opportunities and scholarships. More likely to have incidents of learning disabilities. By the way, why a greater incidence of learning disabilities in terms of poverty areas? Anybody know?
Low nutrition.
Low nutrition. Anything else? Anything else? How about housing? More likely to live in older homes, might have lead paint. The children eat the chips. Kids don't know. Creates deficiencies, learning disabilities. Not proficient in reading, writing, math, comprehension. A reduced knowledge base, lower IQs, not because of ability, but because of a denied opportunity. So therefore, individuals, in terms of that impact of poverty, it's huge. Individuals, in terms of academics, less likely to have well-defined study habits. Less disciplined, less access to libraries, computers, internet, etc. Less likely to participate in year-round schooling. So you can see there's a problem even in terms of the academics. Children that grow up in poverty, less likely to hear these words. When you go to college, just those simple words, starting very early with children, when you go to college, let's focus on learning, discipline. So when we get students that come from that background, we have to understand what it is that we're actually looking at, the difficulties, the problems. Family issues, less parental involvement, supervision. More than likely, it's generational poverty. There are higher rates of child abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, substance abuse, increased rates of teen pregnancy. Yeah, problem. So you're more likely to have single-parent households, higher divorce rates, all of that, lacking skills. Housing issues, exposure to what? Toxins, pollution, reduced home ownership, higher rates of gentrification. Gentrification. People with money move into a particular area. If we use Heritage Hill, fix up the property, force people that were living there out of those particular areas. Therefore, we have more social disorganization, higher rates of crime in terms of poverty. More dependency on social programs, lower wages, lots of problems. But let's get through this. Health, less likely to have dental care, medical care, vision, mental. Lower life expectancy. Average life expectancy for a person such as myself, an African American male, more likely to be about 68. The average life expectancy for the society is going to be somewhere between 75 and 78. Higher rates of infant mortality. If you look at the infant mortality rate in Kent County for individuals in poverty, specifically African Americans, it is typically twice the rate of whites. It's huge. So this impact is what we are dealing with when students come. So we're more likely to be vulnerable to predatory lending, individuals that are in poverty. And by the way, I've been in poverty, so if you're wondering, I'm not just talking off the top of my head, okay? I've also been homeless. Yeah, I know. But you're a professor, how is that possible? All the things that you learn. Look at this, emotional and social challenges. A lot of times there are stressors in terms of being poor that you bring with you to class, to school. Acting out behaviors, impatience, impulsivity, gaps in politeness and social graces. Why? Because these things have not been learned. Yeah. There are other areas and problems and difficulties, etc. More absenteeism, and I won't go through the whole list because, like I said, I don't want to just bore you here, but there's more absenteeism. Poverty impairs attention, reduces cognition, creativity, memory. Okay? What can we do? Well, most of the time, we take the position that we can't do anything, especially as educators, as people within the society, etc. Let's see what we can do. As a society, we can increase the training and the education for everyone within the society, and I'll get to this later. But my personal belief is that school for individuals within our society should be free, especially when your income level is under a certain amount. And it should be based upon your ability to achieve, not on your ability to pay. So we need to make some changes. We need guaranteed income. We need a safety net for people in our society that would ultimately change some things. We need assistance for individuals who can't work for whatever reason due to age, etc. We need to increase the quality of the educators, helping them understand where people actually come from. Because when I get to the classroom, I have stressors on me already that are killing me the moment I come into the school that I have to deal with that I can't leave behind me. So I bring them with me to the classroom. These are general solutions we can do. More participation and partnership from the private sector. Good idea. Create a better tax structure than we have now. Lessen the burden on the working poor. We'll see if that happens. Here are the academic solutions that we can actually do. First, every student coming to Grand Rapids Community College should be tested pre-admission to determine proficiency. That's number one. Number two, exclusive enrollment in developmental classes should be required in areas of deficiency based on the Accuplacer, and I think that's what we use now. But notice this part here. Strict adherence to basic development of skill sets to bring students up to minimum standards. No touchy-feely. Reading, writing, arithmetic, social skills. We need to have an expanded offering of open entry, open exit developmental classes. Students can move at their own pace rather than us saying this is a 15-week course. They can come in, get their work done. When they achieve it, they move on, instead of us dictating and trying to control when they can take this class, when they can't. Partnership with administrators and students at middle and high school levels to expand college prep courses and training. Because if we don't get here, we're never going to change the problem. Expand scholarship offerings, and the one I really like, guaranteed GRCC education based on academic success, not based on the ability to pay. When you do it the other way, many times you find individuals who have the academic abilities but do not have the ability to pay. We have to expand our partnership with four-year institutions, enhance support for students, and promote, watch, not just an associate's degree, but promoting a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctoral degree. We need to talk to our students about making sure that they go on to complete as much as they can possibly get. And that Grand Valley, Western, Michigan State, University of Michigan, these are not the only institutions in the United States. Harvard, Stanford, Northwestern, MIT are all possibilities. If we focus on academic success, we can actually do this. The other suggestions, we have to be less parochial than we have been in the past. We have to learn how to respect our students, appreciate what they are going through or have gone through to get into that seat. If you've never been homeless, you've never been in poverty, you don't have a clue what it's like. You go to a grocery store, pull out your wallet, your credit card, etc., and you pay the bill. And it's easy to do, unless you find that you come from an impoverished background. Individuals in poverty many times don't have a checking account, don't have a savings account, they don't have a debit card. Individuals don't even know how to write a check. You say, well, why? Because they were not taught those things. They didn't learn that. And yet when they come, we don't respect them. So we have to learn how to respect them. They come with the mentality that I made it, therefore I should be able to get through. But they don't have the social skills. They don't have the life skills. They don't have the things that they need to prepare them for what's coming next. So we have to teach them. Yeah, it's going to cost money to do it, but we've got to do it. We have to embed social skills, not just classroom skills. We have to teach people the graces of good morning. How are you? Have a good day. Regular, ordinary social skills. Some people have never sat down at a table with their family to eat a meal. Yeah. They go to a restaurant, which fork do they use? Why so many forks? I only need one. Nobody taught them. We must be more inclusive in terms of our atmosphere. Our classroom, our school. Not just my school, my classroom, ours. Because we're all in this together. If we don't make the changes, poverty will pull us all down. But if we work together, we can pull everybody up. Recognize the signs. Sometimes we look at it that a person is apathetic, rude, and we just say, this person is not interested in learning. And in fact, the opposite might be true. Yeah. They have no sense of hope, despair, problems. What are they going to do when they leave school today? What are they going to eat today? Most of us don't even think about that because we don't have to, because we have the food. Everybody? No. So we've got to know what's really going on. And that's where teachers come in, to recognize the signs of what? The stress of the students. Excuse me. The stress of the students. We've got to change the environment of school. No longer should we be in our parochial manner allowing students to come in and just do anything, and then we use social promotion to get rid of them. I don't want to see you next semester, so I'll give you a C- and we'll let you go. But what has the student learned? What can they take to the next level? And then you have to give the students the power that they need to control their situation, control their environment, how they can manage their stress levels. You don't just say act differently, come in, sit down, and shut up. You teach people how to act differently. What are the other options that I have? We've got to build the core schools, the basic necessities for success, even when a student underperforms academically. To me, it is ridiculous that if a student fails a class, they have to come back and pay for that class again. They just paid. Maybe they didn't have what they needed to get through. That's a deficiency on our part, because we allowed them into the class. But it's not my fault. I'm not responsible. I said, this is what you need to do, but nobody checked whether they had the skills, whether they were ready for the class, could they do the work? All we wanted to know is the check good? We get your money, we're good to go. Yeah. If you fail a class, fine, let them take the class over again. No charge. Community college? Yeah, that's where we are. Okay, so I want to make sure. The other thing that we've got to do is pinpoint our assessments. Helping to improve students' cognitive abilities and academic performance takes more than just knowing that they're behind. We have to take time out to show them and make it possible for them to actually grow. It's really unfair for us to take students' money and not give them what they're paying for. It's also bad for students to pay the money and not get what they should get. And I'm not talking about a degree. I'm talking about knowledge, information. Yeah. I'm done. You have questions for me? Anything? Yes.
I'm just wondering, when you were homeless, how did you pull yourself out of that state?
I didn't. Somebody had to help me get out of that hole. That's the only way I could get out. Some people have never lived in a car, lived on the street. And we see people and we say, they smell bad, they look bad. They're urinating in this man's property. You can't get out of the hole by yourself. And actually what you're finding today in our society, the hole is getting bigger and more people are falling into the hole. Yeah. So I didn't get out of the hole by myself. I had to have some help. I personally believe that part of this was not only the help from people within the society, I think also for me, it was my religious beliefs that also played a part in terms of me getting out. Yeah. And see, here's the other interesting thing. A lot of times you're sitting in class, there's a person sitting next to you who's homeless. I've had students in classes, and they come up to me after class, Dr. Williams, I'm homeless. Can you help me out? We see everybody dressed pretty much the same way, and we figure, hey, we're pretty much all in the same boat, but we're not. And by the way, it's not limited to race. It's not limited to gender. It's not limited to social class. It's across the board. More and more people are losing housing. Yeah, big problem. Yes, sir.
As part of Grand Rapids Community College, I feel like there's more of a business side to it as well as an academic side. So a lot of these suggestions deal with empathy and sympathy, but what happens when we do these things and then we see the business side of it crash because of the monetary side of it?
First of all, the business side will never crash by helping other people. Anytime you pull somebody up, you pull the society up as a whole. And if you want to know how well a society is doing, look at its poorest inhabitants. And I can tell you how well they're doing. Because what happens is this. The people that are at the very bottom, they don't want to be there. We don't want them there. So when they get out, what do? What do you think? Help somebody else. I've given textbooks to students. I've bought textbooks for students. I've given students money. And by the way, this is not because I'm such a great guy. Okay, it's not that. It's just that I understand the principle behind poverty. The business side would actually increase if we help the people that are at the very bottom. You say, well, how's that possible? Because the people at the bottom determine what happened to the rest of us. If I'm sinking and I'm hanging on to the boat, what happens if I continue to pull on the boat as I go down? Everybody in the boat goes what? With me, down. But let's say the folks in the boat decide to pull me in. What happens? We all live. So what we have to understand is the society benefits by helping people in poverty. Everybody benefits in terms of the society. It is my suggestion that the private sector, which already has problems with people going to work, that they have to teach basic skills, how to get along with one another, that they invest in the poorest people in the society, not the wealthiest. We have arbitrary rules in terms of, well, you don't fit the cut line in terms of poverty. Your parents make too much money. How much money do they make? $80,000 a year. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you out. Why not? Because the way we look at it is strictly from the business side. And by the way, our priorities, even at this institution, are business first, academics last. Yes, sir?
If you look at Finland or Sweden, those are the most developed countries in terms of their poor people.
Right?
But they have a different ideology than the U.S. has, though.
Of course they do.
Like you said, America is more about greed and business than humans.
They also have and believe in a social safety net. Because here's what they know. If I allow you to fall below that safety net, am I going to worry more? Yeah. Why? How are you going to survive? What are you going to do to survive? And people will say, I would never do that. Right. You will steal. You will kill. You will hurt. You will maim. Why? For survival. I would never take that man's car and sell it. Yeah, go without a few meals. See what happens. Do without. Let your baby start crying and you can't feed them Similac or breast milk or whatever. What are you going to do to get it? Yeah. We talk about the ideal. Oh no, ideally, I would never do those things. But what happens when you get desperate? And you're right, their system is better than ours in terms of philosophy. Do we have to develop the same system? No. But what we do need to do is to focus more on the people who have the least. Because then you're safer when I have. Seriously. Crime is less of a problem when I have and when everybody has. And by the way, I'll use the Grand Rapids metropolitan area. If every person in Grand Rapids that doesn't fall into the poverty level, every week when you went shopping, you bought 5 cans of canned goods and donated it to the shelter, we could really get rid of poverty, at least in terms of this area, in terms of food, really well. What else can we do? Ask all of the doctors in Grand Rapids, Wyoming, the metropolitan area, to donate 1 day per month to help the less fortunate. 1 day out of the month. Every physician. Ask every teacher to donate teaching 1 class for free. Yeah. No revenue, no income, just donate. Yeah. How many of you donate to food pantries? Let me see your hands. Good. I see about half of you. Now imagine where we would be if the other half were doing it. How many of you donate time to volunteer organizations? A little less than half. Now, other questions? Anything else?
Dr. Williams, I just want to emphasize what you just said about volunteering time. If everybody in this room spends 1 hour a week with a child, at Grand Rapids Public Schools, reading, mentoring, 1 hour a week volunteering, coaching, spending time with a young person, it would be unbelievable in the impact in this society, in this community. Just 1 hour, 1 day a week. If everybody did that, you would see a remarkable improvement in not only this community, but in our society as a whole. And I challenge everybody in this room to spend that 1 hour. Go down to GRPS, ask about their mentoring program, their LOOP program. If you're involved in sports or any other activity, seek people out that you can help. That's what we can do.
Exactly
Many
right.
in this room do not have money to provide, but what we often do have is time. And if you spend that time with a child, you will just see their face light up. I guarantee it.
You're exactly right. And it's not only Grand Rapids, it's also Wyoming, some of the outlying areas as well. What we fail to understand is sometimes poverty is just hidden, and we don't always see it. And all of us have those anecdotal stories. I was in Meijer the other day, and I saw a person buying tons of meat with food stamps. And then they went out and got into a Cadillac and drove off with all this meat. Yeah, we all have those stories. The problem is most of the money that is actually out there for the poor, do you know where most of it goes? It goes to administration. It doesn't go to the people. How about this one? A person that is on welfare who gets child support. Where does that money go? They get child support. Do you know what the state does? They take it because they say, hey, we're giving you food stamps. So therefore, the person that's on food stamps becomes more dependent rather than independent. And I know we keep calling it different things, Family Independence Agency. Okay? The idea is we're not creating a society where people are doing better. We're creating a society where people are doing worse.
Cedric, I need some practical advice.
Okay?
So as an educator, the thing that struck me about what you said today is to respect students at the same time that we try to model for them. And particularly in higher education, I think that's difficult to do because for so long it's been dominated by that mentality that those who are here are those who can pay. And so there's a whole load of cultural bias that goes along with that. How do you walk that line where you're not just teaching students that it's a big hustle, that you have to, you know, pretend to act a certain way when you're in these walls that doesn't work for you on the street, and have it meaningful? How do you walk that line? How do you model and show respect?
Well, first of all, we stop lying to students. We tell students when they come in, hey, 2 years here, 2 years at Grand Valley, Western, Ferris, whatever. That's a lie. The average student will take 5 years to complete their education. And many students, if they're going part-time, is going to take even longer than that. So number one is stop giving them that pie-in-the-sky dream. Tell them the truth. Be honest with them. Number two, make sure that we give them the preparations that they need to succeed. When you come in, you don't just put people in classes and allow them to take any class they want to take. Take them where they need to be in terms of proficiency. And we're not doing that. The other thing is, and I don't, you'll have to excuse me, I don't make boasts about things that I typically do, but we need to start feeding people, okay? In my church, that's what we do. We take 1 day a week out to teach people academic skills, how to fill out an application, how to write a check, how to balance a checkbook, financial assistance. It's about doing it. So you can't come here and then just say, I get paid, and go home and do nothing. The gentleman who said it right. If we all did it, we wouldn't have the problems we have now. But guess what we teach students? The only person that's really important is who? I'm number one, so when you come into my classroom, sit down, shut up, and be quiet. And I'll tell you when to move and when to jump because I'm standing behind the lectern, and I want you to know what my power status is. Instead of, how about this? First day in class, we sit down and we talk some information and facts that are true. I come down on your level. I'm not there now because I'm up here and I think they're taping, so I still want to move down there, but I would. And we actually talk about some things. Loans, never take out loans when you need to go to school, ever. You say, why? I need the money. There's no money available. There's always money available. I can't find any. Where are you looking? Are you waiting on Ed McMahon to come by your house? You playing the lottery? It's not going to happen. So we might as well be honest with them, give them the information. Where to go, where to find it, child care issues. It's a good thing I get to say what I want to say. We have a policy that makes no sense. You know what we say? If you have a problem with your child and your daycare issue on that day, you can't bring your child to school with you. They're not allowed in the classroom. That makes no sense at all. You want to help that student out? Allow them to come to class. Yeah, but the kids are going to make noise. The students make noise. What's the difference? They're back there checking their BlackBerry or their iPad, or they're surfing with the computer up. So I'm looking out and I see them. I'm thinking, hey, they're taking notes. And they're not. They're checking their emails or they're texting, or, do you see where I'm going? And just being honest with students and telling them the facts.
What about culturally, Cedric? I mean, you know, I spent a lot of time, as you know, working on this Achieving the Dream issue. And I go to these conferences, and there are people that will say, well, you got to teach students the proper way to behave. They can't come to class with their pants hanging down to their knees. They got to take their caps off, as if that has anything to do with academic success or learning. I guess that's the line I'm interested in talking about, is how do you truly respect someone for who they are, where they are at that moment in their lives, where they come from, at the same time that you're telling them that they're behaving improperly?
Number one, stop sending people who have an elitist mentality, and start sending people that come from that background so they understand the mentality that you come from. If I come from the street, okay, I'll give you a good example. All of you know what quiche is? Everybody know what quiche is? You've heard of quiche? Q-U-I-C-H-E. I think I put it on here as still on. Let me show you what I mean. This is quiche, Q-U-I-C-H-E. I come here to take an exam, and I come from the street. I'm sitting at my desk, and I see this word on one of the questions. You know what I'm thinking? Quickie. I'm not thinking quiche because I don't know what quiche is. So how do I learn about it? Because I come from a different background. You have to start sending people who have the mentality that, number one, everybody is equal. Everybody deserves the same things in life as everybody else. One place to find it, go back to the early African civilizations, and you'll find out they didn't have orphanages. You know why? They didn't throw children away. They didn't have old folks' homes. Why? They didn't get rid of grandma or grandpa. Everybody in the society got what they needed. So what we have to do is stop looking at the pants. Because where my pants are doesn't matter. You know, the average drug dealer is smarter than a lot of us. Now watch this. Some of them have less than a 7th grade education. But you know what? They know how to buy the drug, cut the drug, market the drug, sell the drug, and how they can make a profit from doing that. But you know what we say? These folks are really stupid. Bad choices, I agree, but they're not stupid.
It goes to how we measure intelligence in our society.
Exactly right. Because what we think is intelligent is, and I hope you don't mind in the back of the room, but he's wearing a tie and a shirt. So if I had on a tie and a shirt, guess what you'd be thinking? Hey, he must have arrived.
You look pretty good.
Even with my Hawaiian shirt. So what we have to learn to do is to actually, it's a old cliche, but do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Real easy, real simple. The baggy pants doesn't mean that everybody is a thug. If you see me with my coat on and my hood, I'm not coming in the place to rob it. But of course, you see it, you know I'm carrying a weapon, because all African Americans carry weapons. So I can't pull my pants down that low, I'm sorry, okay? But if I did and I showed up, then you would be saying, uh-oh, look out. Yes, sir?
When you put your pants down, what respect are you giving to the place? This is educational place. It's like a church, like anything you're learning. You have to give value to the place that you're coming to. You cannot just... And this is, putting the pants down is just an example. I mean, you have so many people going around cussing or saying abusing words to girls or whatever. I mean, that's, not what
Okay.
are we learning? I mean, I come from a different country. I'm learning English. That's what I learned when I very first came.
Right. But let me ask you a question.
Ask me.
I hear your accent.
Yes.
Should I treat you differently because of the accent?
No. But I cannot get rid of my accent.
I'm sorry?
Accent is not something I choose to do. I have
Oh.
it.
It's not something you choose to do.
Yeah. I mean, what the difference if you pull your pants off or you wear it properly? What the difference will happen? You're just showing respect. I mean, it's not gonna change your lifestyle or anything. I don't know if I'm being clear or not. But
No, it's okay. Let's put it this way. If I showed up and I said my name was Dr. Williams and I had my pants pulled down here and I were to give this lecture, would it change how you received it?
no, not necessarily, but
Unfortunately, most of the people in here, it would change it. The same way that when I show up somewhere with my dark skin, it changes people's perception. And in our society, perception is reality.
I don't think that much because I don't see racism as much as I heard about before I came to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see people are, they're friendly, they're happy. It's not as much as, some people exaggerate, I think.
Well, let's look at the numbers. When you talk about poverty, how is it that more than 50% of the people in poverty happen to be African American and
Yes.
Hispanic?
I can tell you. I think, okay, I read the news, I look at the media. I used to watch TV, I don't anymore. All the African American famous people are rappers and football players, athletes. So you're always seeing that. And I used to listen to those music, they're all abusive. But when Obama comes on the TV, everybody, oops, bad speech, or he's Muslim, or he's not American. All the successful black African American people, you don't see them. I've never seen one until I started going to conferences and seeking to them. But I don't see them, I don't read about them much. But every day I read about Lil Wayne. Every day I see the athletes player on a newspaper, on the front page.
So for me, then, if I grow up in a neighborhood where my role models are pimps, what am I going to want to be?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I say if I grow up in a neighborhood where my role models are pimps, what am I more likely to want to be?
You have the ability to choose. There's freedom in this country. You can choose your destination. I've seen many people that were poor and talk to them, African Americans back from my country, all over the world, came from the worst neighborhood and became the most successful, and they have money.
You're right. And I'm one of those examples.
Yeah, why you're not on the front page of the newspaper?
Oh,
I'm
well,
not saying,
I don't know. Maybe
exaggerating,
somebody's actually
but you're
looking
not
for
that
me. I don't
important.
know. But here's what I can say to you. You cannot use me as the example for the African American community. I am one African American who made it out. The problem, I'm sorry?
I've seen many like you.
You have, but the problem is the overwhelming majority are stuck to no fault of their own. And you know where it starts? Even before birth. You know why? Because, I'll come right to you, because infant mortality rates for African Americans significantly higher. Poverty rates, same thing as well. Yes?
And I think it goes back to what I don't know if that's the right term, where it's like institutionalized, it's so ingrained, and it's the United States, because I'm from Mexico, and in Mexico we have the darkest Mexicans and the whitest, and there's no black and white over there. It's either you're, a darker tone or a lighter tone. It's just in the United States, and I think that's why it's just so ingrained in our society, and that's why we don't see Professor Cedric on the newspaper. We see Lil Wayne, and all the little kids also, they don't see Professor Cedric, they see Lil Wayne.
No.
So
Also, they
that's
don't
why-
pay me what they pay Lil Wayne either,
or-
just to
or
let you know,
whoever, the
okay?
athletes, and that's who they want to dress
Good
like.
question.
That's who they want to be like when they grow up. That's why they walk into community college with their pants like this. That's just what they've seen, what they know. It's not even about respecting the school or not, it's just what they know.
Right. And the other thing is, it's not an excuse, and you're exactly right. The problem that we have is that a lot of the difficulties have become institutionalized. Therefore, we are not at the point where we need to be in terms of helping the people that are at the bottom.
Our society is so defined by stereotypes,
True?
and I think the media perpetuates those stereotypes. This is why this young man does not see you on the news, because you're not what people expect. We expect an African American to be an athlete, to be a musical artist. We don't expect him to be a college professor. We expect Latinos to be a certain way.
Exactly right.
And we can talk all day about the way the media perpetuates this. That's why this young man coming here from I'm not sure where has learned about the United States from our media. And
Right.
that, of course, does no one accept.
That's true. I agree. Yeah.
I wanted
Yes. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you want to see African Americans who are doing something, you have to turn off Main Street media. There's a
Yeah.
magazine that's struggling right now called Ebony Magazine. And every year they have lists of African Americans who are successful outside of entertainment. They're in finance, they're doctors, they're scientists, they're lawyers, they're making money, they're entrepreneurs. You can't turn on Fox News because they're going to be talking about Obama's baby mama, okay, and disrespecting us. They don't want to show us in a good light. They don't want you to know.
Where do you get this magazine?
You can pick it up on the newsstand every month. You can go. It's on. You can go to Walgreens right now and pick it up.
Yeah.
But you
And-
can go also in the library.
Hang on.
You
But
can
you
go
know
in the
what?
library and get archives, and it is online too.
I got a better suggestion. Go to Bethel Pentecostal Church at Lake Drive
You can do that.
and Eastern. You will see a microcosm of the African American community, like we see Dr. Williams.
But the other
You have to
thing,
go on Sunday. You don't have to buy a darn thing.
the other thing is, you can actually, if you're interested in Ebony, go to ebony.com and you can find it. You can go and find jet.com, not a problem. There are other places to go as well, but still, that's not the issue. The real issue is that as a society, the poor are marginalized, and they're looked down on, they're treated differently than the people who have. So it becomes a problem, and you're right. Those stereotypes are, while not reality, they're based upon perception. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
You said they were stuck.
Yeah.
What is stuck?
The
They don't
inner-
have the opportunity to learn different ways. They don't have the examples in their life to find different things. They don't have an out to learn.
all of the above. Do you know that within our society, I can't remember the team, but somebody won the NCAA yesterday. Do you know that even in terms of colleges, athletes who are in college, the graduation rate is less than 50%. For many universities, and colleges in this country. You know why? Because we use them to make millions of dollars. Do they get anything? No. We say, oh yeah, they get an education. No, they don't. No, they don't. There was a man who played for the Washington Redskins. I'm trying to think of his name now. His name was Dexter Manley. Dexter Manley, when he was playing for the Washington Redskins, was making millions of dollars every year. Do you know that Dexter Manley could not read or write? He had to make a mark to sign a contract. But you know what people were interested in? Him playing that game. So how did he get through elementary, junior high, high school, some college, and be able to make millions of dollars? So you know what young people see? I want that kind of money, therefore, that's what I'm going to do. Stuck. The role models, they're not there. As he said, they're not plastered on TV. You don't see me. You don't see Professor Light on there. You know who you see? Not only Lil Wayne, you see Jay-Z, you see LeBron, you see all of these folks, and they're making millions of dollars. And I'm glad they are. But you know what the problem is? They're setting a bad standard for people that are coming up watching them. How many professional athletes are there in the United States? Anybody have an idea? All sports, professional. You have an idea? That number's in the neighborhood of about 1,500. So how many young people do we have that are trying to be like Mike? Michael Jordan, for those of you that don't know, okay? I want to be rappers like Jay-Z, Notorious B.I.G., he's dead, Snoop Dogg. Huh? Stuck. Because the role models that they're trying to emulate are out of their reach. Now what do they do when they don't make it in sports? What do? It's a difficult issue.
You still can't make them pay attention to the other people in their life that are setting a good example.
You know why we...
There should be moral role models and business role models.
When I show up in my suit and tie, which I don't typically wear, what do you think that they're saying to themselves? They want to be like me?
You conformed.
Sold out? Oreo? Uncle Tom? Do you see where I'm going? Stop wearing those pants down there. Oh, okay. Why don't you be like, okay, so-and-so or so-and-so? And we don't understand they can't be like that because they don't get to see that. Who was that talking about the Ebony magazine? We've got so many folks that are illiterate. They can't read it anyway. All they can do is look at the pictures. Huge illiteracy problem. Reading, writing, comprehension. Yes, sir?
Now, I understand that there are inequalities around the world, but nothing can trump the people's free will to do something better. That's the nature of capitalism for personal gain. And even if you're stuck, I understand that there's discrimination and inequalities, but you can still get better for yourself, and that's, I guess, the American dream.
The problem is that the American dream that we've been sold has become the American nightmare. That's what happened with all the foreclosures. Did the folks on Wall Street lose any money? I'm sorry? So the fittest got richer and we got poorer, dumped on, the shaft, whatever you want to say. The issue is those inequalities within the society continue to perpetuate themselves. And that's our problem. It's not that people don't want to get out, they do, but they don't always have the opportunities. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to share something that happened after I moved here. We're not from Grand Rapids. We moved here 10 years ago. And I'm not necessarily proud to say that I live in Forest Hills land, but I do.
Okay.
And I had two of my kids went to Forest Hills Northern. And I thought it was amazing when there was the out-of-district controversy where all of a sudden African American kids, horror of horrors, were being brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to all of the meetings because I was so fascinated that I lived in a community where that was a problem. And it was amazing how these parents had the mentality that by bringing in African Americans, what would happen to our precious kids? The test scores are going to come down. Things are being stolen. I bet it's those out-of-district kids. Never mind that it wasn't. It was their own kids. Our athletics better be better if we're allowing these African Americans in. Because, our football team hasn't been doing very well.
Exactly right.
But it better improve because there needs to be a trade-off. And whenever I would speak up, because it was very hard for me not to, I was actually told that because I was not from here, I really was not entitled to an opinion. And I was just absolutely amazed. There was one woman who had adopted an Asian child who said, just because I adopted a minority doesn't mean that my child should have to go to school with them. And I find it interesting. It was making so much media attention at the time. Nothing has really been said since then. And I just noticed that the latest test scores came up, and Forest Hills actually beat East Grand Rapids, which is their main competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, where is the article that says, despite the fact that we allowed all of these African American kids into our precious school system, our test scores are still the highest in the area. But you don't see that story.
Of course not, because once again, if you go back and look at all of the research, what it shows, and I'll give you one, early on in the civil rights movement, the issue was if minorities, African Americans specifically, are allowed to move in the neighborhood, our property values would go down. Well, guess what? Property values did go down, but it was because of all of the non-minorities moving out of the neighborhood, selling their homes for less. And actually, the research showed that minorities actually took better care of their property than the non-minorities did. So when you look at the research, what you find out is teacher expectation, extremely important. Parental involvement, extremely important. Yeah. So a lot of times it's based upon fear and people don't have the information or the knowledge that they really need. Yes?
I think that, because I went to Forest Hills Central, and I think that people are just looking for a scapegoat because parents in Forest Hills know what goes on. We used to have, at least in my class, there was maybe once a month a kid would be out of class because in the middle of the night his parents did a rehab raid that he was taken out of his home and brought to rehab, and these were white children. They weren't a minority. And so we know we knew who the problem was. I think parents just want a scapegoat.
Well, I think you're right to a certain extent. I think the bigger issue is that the society still has not been willing to step up to the plate in terms of dealing with people equally across the board. And until we get to that place that you're just as important as I am, and I'm just as important as you are, and we all take our rightful place in terms of helping, assisting, doing those kinds of things, we're never going to get there. Yeah, unfortunately. Yes, sir.
Dr. Williams, would you talk briefly about the concept of power as it relates to discrimination and poverty? And I know that's an important concept, and how that relates to this dialogue.
Well, power is one of those things that most people who have it refuse to relinquish it or share it. There are some who actually believe that power allows people to control others. Therefore, the argument is this: because I'm an African American and I have no power, I therefore cannot be racist. That's faulty. I can treat people differently because one thing I do have is power. It's whether or not I utilize the power or give it away. Because guess what? All of us have power. Now watch. In this room, let's say there's 100 people, and we decide to do something starting today. Every one of us decides we're going to take 5 cans of food one day out of every week for the next year. And we're going to take that food to a pantry. Guess what we've created? Power. Because not only can we take those 5 cans, we can insist that the grocer that we go to, because what we're going to do is go in mass, and we're going to say to them, for every 5 that we buy, we want you to give us 5. Power. So power is one of those things. We can change whatever we want to change. The problem is that most of us, we only focus on what? Myself. And the other thing is this. The one thing we don't want people to do is get together. Now watch power. In the world, people of color somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1 billion people. If we could all get together and do one thing, even if it was wrong, could we change things? How about where you shop? Could we change things? See, power is one of those things that the people with money think that they have all the power. They don't. They're approximately 1.5% of the population. How do we overcome them? Peacefully, of course. Okay? Just by getting together and deciding that we're going to make change. Most of the time, we give our power away. I got lots of power. Okay? Let me show you. I have $1 bill. If we had 100 people in this room who said, we're going to give $1 apiece once a week, could we change things in our society in Grand Rapids? Yeah. But you know what we'd rather do? I need a Coke. So we go down to the Coke machine. Now watch. Here's my power. And I put it in the machine. Now, the Coke company charges me twice as much to 4 times as much buying it through the machine than it would cost me if I went to the grocery store. So guess what I do? I say, I'm going to spend it anyway. What if we just got together and said, what we're going to do is we're going to buy this, wholesale, and everybody here could buy it for 25 to 50 cents rather than $1.25. You know what that is? power. It's not this that's the power. This isn't worth anything. It's not even worth the paper that it's printed on. So if you want to see power, all we have to do is to change the way we think. Because we have all the power. But you know what the people who have the money do? Divide and conquer. Yeah. Now, you don't want those people to get all your jobs, do you? So now, if we can make you not like me because of my difference, regardless of what that difference is, race, social class, anything else, we give our power to somebody else. Now we can't do anything. And then we wonder why. We gave our power away. Yeah, something to think about, isn't it? You want power? Learn what's behind all the lies we've been taught. Columbus discovered America. No, he didn't. Oh boy, there's so many. Huh? Jesus had blonde hair, blue eyes. Oh, well, I didn't know that. You name it, we've got them. And they're still taught. Why is it we haven't changed the textbooks? Because if we can rob you of your power, we can rob you of your humanity. And if we take away your humanity, it's real easy to treat you any way that we want to. Excuse my voice.
Why don't we give Dr. Williams a break? We'll call it a session and give him a round of applause for taking time with us today. Thank you, Dr.
folks.
Williams. Thank you all for coming.